But 3 years later, we have, let me think, about 80,000 tracks, 3,500 artists, and we pay out about $4 million a year, mainly to artists who you'd never hear of. So I thank iTunes for the digital revolution. I think we're going to go into a bit further about the background and why, why the industry is changing. But I'll go back over there because I'm more comfortable than I am up here. Thank you.
I've got the microphone, yeah. That was a lovely segue. So, Kevin, if we could just talk a little bit further then about how you sort of, the awareness and the key sort of points that sort of drove awareness that there was a new way of working. It's an interesting thing. I heard a recording of the initial meeting that these two had with Cats when they discussed what they were going to talk about. And it just came across beautifully that there was this sense of sort of almost awakening that there was a new way of doing things and a new way of looking at things. And I think I'd really like Kevin to sort of talk through some of that.
Well, I think... Am I? Yes. It wasn't so much one event. I mean, the iTunes meeting and the access to distribution opened up... but we'd seen, for years, we'd seen record companies pull away from artist development. That's something that they did in the 80s. But we didn't really know about it at the time. We saw the effect of it. And it's quite interesting that today, Universal's still one of their biggest artists is U2. But that was an artist that didn't actually make any money for the record company until after they were signed for, I think, for 6 years. So that would never happen anymore. You know, and the major label's new policy for developing an artist is get them on the radio. And if that doesn't work, get another artist on the radio. And that's really where the end point of where they've got to. So, you know, and I think those of us inside the industry, we weren't aware of how much we've been mugged for so long. And, you know, we were just talking about it before we started. I think now we really are, this is punk proper. You know, if we'd had the internet in 78, it would have been 77. It would have been, you know, a very different landscape.
I mean, how do you, what interests me about the music industry, I'll come to Carolyn in a second, but how do you see yourself as then being different from what you've replaced or potentially replacing?
Well, I think the biggest fundamental issue is that we have, in our agreement, we have no more rights. We have no rights. We basically have a little window of rights, which we have to have because we have to pass that on from iTunes, but we're not interested in rights. And that's the fundamental difference. The way that the music industry works is they have to own everything. They have to own the manufacturing, the distribution, the artists, you know, the URL nowadays. They own everything, and we own nothing. And that's that's a big thing. The artists can leave us at any time they like. And I mean, we were very lucky early on because we signed the Arctic Monkeys, who were with us for 5 months, which was fantastic for us. And the editors and the Claxons, and you know, they all went on to sign with major labels, and you know, that's cool. We are their stepping stone, and we're happy to do that. But we've got lots of other artists that have stepped into that level and stayed there. So you know, and lots of them, and it's also opened up new things. It's because we don't just do music. We also do comedy and spoken word, and you know, the internet has opened up this amazing passion for people for comedy. You know, I would say that probably our biggest genre is comedy over music, even though we have some, you know, really substantially huge artists. Comedy is massive.
I mean, what are your primary actual distribution channels for the stuff? I mean, is it iTunes?
There's, you know, iTunes have, although they'd like to disguise it, they have over 85% of the market. It varies in territories around the world, and they have to be, you know, the biggest place to go to. But they're also really good. I mean, they pay you, they account to you. You can find out your sales within 2 days. You know, it's a fantastic system. And I sound like I work for Apple or iTunes, but I can't tell you how great they are compared to everybody else, even the new companies.
I mean, what do you see Apple's, you know, iTunes role becoming? I mean, in a way, if they've got that much control, the minute they make a significant decision, it can affect everything, both ends of the chain.
That is true, and actually, it is scary because I think the great thing about iTunes is that Apple don't really care about it. It's really about just driving people to buy more iPods, and when you buy more iPods, you buy more computers. And that's actually the beauty of it as well, because you know, for them, it's just, that's where they have fun with it. I mean, they used to have more fun, it's changed a little. But it is worrying that one day they might just turn it off. If they, you know.
Caroline, I mean, you've come from a slightly different background. You're from television, interactive television, and you're coming at it from a point of view of games, because you've done in the past a lot of games at Static and what have you. I mean, again, you're approaching things the same way. You're saying, well, we don't need the traditional channels. We can go direct to market, I guess. I mean, how did that awareness come for you? Was it just a blinding moment of revelation, or?
Well, what I think was really interesting for me was back actually in Canada. I was with Chum, and Moses Neimer wanted to set up an interactive division. This was like going back 15 years ago, and I don't know if anyone knows much about the Canadian market, but he was quite a visionary, and everyone's like, interactive division within a broadcaster? I mean, no one knew anything about it, and it was great, because it was like we had a blank sheet of paper to work from. And what was really interesting is we developed this, the first, for Chum, interactive format that for their nation's music station, which was called Much Music, whereby an artist would come in, for example, like Madonna would come in and perform, and there'd be, you know, myself and a co-host who'd interview her afterwards, but I'd be interviewing online, and we'd set up a chat room. And this just hadn't been done before, even this most basic thing. This is, going back 15 years ago. And literally, it was that whole concept for me of build it and they will come. Because at that time, if we all remember, the computer, we didn't have laptops. Their computers were in like your dad's den, or, you know, in the TV was in a separate room. And we were literally like, okay, go into your den, get that computer, bring it into where your TV is, get online and talk to Madonna, you know, and it was that basic. And so we tried to roll that out internationally, and I can't even tell you the resistance. It was incredibly frustrating, because we're like, look, you're getting your audience to be active versus passive viewers for the first time, and they're engaging, and they're telling us things about themselves, you know, and that's something you can speak to. And just realized back then that, and obviously with the advent of digital, it becomes much more, it opens up the scope much more than that, but it's like that long ago when it sort of triggered, but it's literally taken about 15 years of plugging away and digital being rolled out, you know, on a mass scale, to really understand just how flexible the business model has to be,